You know, it's funny. We live in a country with over 400 million guns, yet the vast majority of people in this country don't know jack about firearms, and it's kind of embarrassing. But I actually blame the government for that for the most part, because they spend more time trying to vilify firearms and firearm owners than they actually do educating the people in the country that have the firearms. If you were truly about empowering the people in the country, then you would be teaching them about firearm knowledge, or at least making that information easily accessible. But instead, we live in a world right now, we live in a country currently right now where all of the platforms that we have are doing their best to silence individuals who are trying to teach people about firearms and so forth and so on. But I digress. I'm jumping off my soapbox, but I'm gonna hop back on in a second. What I want you to watch is this particular video of the prosecution cross-examining Kyle Rittenhouse on what a hollow point is. And what you're about to watch is a prime example of why firearm ignorance in this country is dangerous.
Hollow point bullets are designed to hit the animal that they're being shot at, let's say a deer, for example, and explode inside that body, correct?
No, I don't think so.
When you say explode, are you saying expand or explode? Because there are such things as exploding bullets.
Sure. Let me rephrase. Mr. Rittenhouse, what is your understanding of what a hollow point bullet would do if it were shot at, say, a deer?
I don't think people use hollow point.
So here's the irony. This prosecution, from what I'm understanding, I honestly don't know where he was going with this line of questioning. I can only assume and guess, and I'm assuming what he was trying to do is paint the picture that jacketed hollow points, which are bullets, this is a Nosler jacketed hollow point right here, where it has an open cavity where they're designed to explode whenever they hit a target. And if I'm understanding his tactic, is he's trying to create this image in the mind of the jury that, you know, Kyle Rittenhouse was out there running around shooting at people with jacketed hollow points, blowing stuff up, especially considering what you saw what the round did to the guy's arm. For somebody who doesn't know anything about guns, they're gonna look at that and assume, oh my gosh, he was running around shooting explosive bullets. Well, in reality, he actually had full metal jacket rounds. These are the bullets that don't have a cavity in them. They're just round. Here's the irony. Jacketed hollow points are actually safer to use than full metal jackets. The reason why is because hollow points don't explode, they expand. All it does, that's why they have the little cavity, so that the bullet can expand. What that expansion does is slows down the bullet and dumps all of the energy in the bullet inside the body, as opposed to dumping that energy outside of the body. Want to know what happens when a bullet dumps its energy outside of the body? It zips through the body and finds another target to hit to finish dumping the rest of that energy. That's why we use jacketed hollow points, because it does a great job. It does a much better job at stopping people who are trying to attack you, while at the same time protecting the people around those people who are not trying to attack you, because the bullet will stay in the body. But in this case, the prosecution is trying to use it as a way to vilify the idea, to basically vilify Kyle, but in turn is actually vilifying gun owners in general. Because anybody who knows anything about guns knows you go to the range, you use full metal jackets. When you come home and you take the gun that you use for self-defense, you load it with hollow points. Everyone who is a gun person understands this. Now, in this case, Kyle had full metal jackets. There's nothing wrong inherently with using full metal jackets, but they do serve as a liability from the standpoint that sometimes they go through stuff a little too well versus hollow points. So what you'd want to do is not use those in as many cases as you can. But because jacketed hollow points tend to be way more expensive than full metal jacket, most people, not most, but there are people who will only use full metal jackets. Now, I want you to imagine if this prosecutor was able to establish the precedent that hollow points, anytime somebody uses a hollow point in a self-defense situation, they understood that they were using a bullet that exploded. What that does is that creates the intention in the mind of somebody who doesn't know anything about guns that you deliberately wanted to go out there and commit and engage in the most destructive harm as possible, when that's not true. And what's sad is you have somebody who works for the government, for Christ's sakes. This is a guy who prepared this case. This is a guy who studied this case. And yet He doesn't know the distinction between a hollow point and a Full Metal Jacket. He probably Googled it, read one sentence on Wikipedia, and thought he understood it. And the funny thing is, it's this type of intellectual arrogance that is the case with a lot of these anti-gunners, because they think, because they go and they read a line or two about a firearm, that they think they understand it more than people who have been dealing with it their entire lives, over 15 to 20 years in my case. And so then they go out there and they try to make policy around their ignorance. Their enlightened ignorance is what I like to call it. Because they think they know, but they don't know. But they don't realize they don't know what they don't know because they're too arrogant to go out there and learn it. Because they're too busy pushing an agenda. That's a problem. Now I get it. He's a prosecutor. He's an attorney in trial trying to make his case. So he's going to grasp at any possible thing that he can to make his case. But unfortunately for him, because of his ignorance or lack of doing a thorough investigation or understanding or studying of firearms or firearm bullets, since he was going to use it in his case, he ended up embarrassing himself. He ended up embarrassing himself and talking about something he knew nothing about, which is why inevitably he ended up doing the one thing they tell you as a trial attorney never do. Never ask a question you don't know the answer to.
Let me rephrase. Mr. Rittenhouse, what is your understanding of what a hollow point bullet would do if it were shot at, say, a deer?
But because he didn't know the answer himself, when he got checked on what a hollow point was versus a Full Metal Jacket.
When you say explode, are you saying expand or explode? Because there are such things as exploding bullets.
Sure.
The only thing he could do was ask Kyle, do you know the distinction and the difference between a hollow point and a Full Metal Jacket? And what's that difference? Why would you ask that question? It's an open-ended question. Kyle can get up there and say anything. But guess what? His ignorance is the reason why he asked that question. And this is the same ignorance that a lot of our politicians are using to base and make gun control laws on. They don't know what they're talking about. As is the case here with this prosecutor who is an agent of the government. He doesn't know what he's talking about. And he's in a trial where he was able to prepare for it. So come on, people. We've got to do better. We've got to do better at understanding and educating the masses about firearms. 400 million guns in this country. We stand to gain by educating people, not vilifying and try to make it seem as bad as possible. But that's what the government does when it doesn't want you to be empowered. Education empowers people. The ability to defend yourself empowers people. They don't want that. They want you ignorant, blind, deaf, and dumb so that they can manipulate it and use it to their advantage, as you can see in this case. But thankfully, because of his ignorance contrasted against other people's actual knowledge, he wasn't able to do what he was trying to do. Guns aren't political. That's why I need your help getting this message to spread on YouTube by clicking the thumbs up button, leaving a comment to let me know what you think of the video, then subscribing to the channel. But most importantly, click that bell symbol. For products featured in this video, click the links in the description.